Okay, so the story starts like this.
One of the problems that we're addressing is that there is obviously a lot of talent, as there is everywhere, but there's also a huge brain drain. So there comes a point where people have achieved, let's say, degree-level education, or they've tried to start something here. And due to a lack of spaces, a lack of credit facilities, and often a lack of knowledge, they've ended up taking their ideas elsewhere.
The creative industries globally are worth over $1 trillion in business every year. Millions of people are employed in Europe, and very few are employed in Serbia. Yet lots of people from Serbia are employed around the world in these industries. That's an equation that doesn't make sense for Serbia.
One thing that's very interesting is that everybody thinks their problems are unique, and they largely aren't.
In a country like this, which is in political transition, there are so many things to deal with that one cannot really hold it against the political community for prioritizing other things, but this has to be dealt with. This issue of young people becoming adults and becoming part of the employed community and doing what they want to do in a very cynical way to make money, but also to make themselves happy.
I mean, another thing is that I think because there's been a lot of people tend to be primed to expect the state to solve their problems and to expect the state to be the institution that governs whether something happens or not.
65% of graduates say that they want to leave the country.
And part of the problem is in Serbia there is commercial office space, which tends to be rather expensive, but there's no specialist facilities catering to the needs of, let's say, designers, production houses, the fashion industry, people involved in music, post-production.
Having developed an idea of what was necessary, we met Mladen Hrvanovic. And Mladen said, I have a similar idea, but I'd like to put this on a boat.
Here is another space, what can be again residency, but office and everything. And here is a cube. It's looking like this. Cube, concrete cube. It's around
concrete cube, or
yeah, because concrete is a most cheapest material for making. You know, okay.
It's fucking heavy.
Mladen's ideas of a boat, our ideas of an urban space to support creative young people. We started to conduct research on what was available in Belgrade, how the boat might look, and particularly what we could learn from outside to bring in here.
You have your commercial sector, your Povataraxes and all the sklabs that open and close every 5 minutes. And you also have Rex, and you also have Grad, and you also have the one in Turk, and you also have the Student Cultural Center in Novi Belgrade, and you also have Suzuki. So on paper, there's a lot of provision of a certain kind of activity. So it's important, I mean, okay, I'm just saying for me as an outsider looking at your documents, it would be possible for me to say, well, I don't see, other than the fact that it's on the water and maybe mobile, I don't see what, and where the key points of differentiation
everything, all of this institution, what we have in Belgrade right now, don't have a really space for production.
I mean, what I tried to do was to provide some international context for the kind of project this could be, and to look at examples of things that had happened and had worked elsewhere in the world and that were already rolling. And I think this is very important when you're talking to people, when you're trying to persuade them something, especially when you're presenting what is in this context a new idea. You can say, look, here's an example from this city, and it cost this much money, and it took this long to implement, and this is what happened.
And so we started to work on this issue as a project, and the project became known as Das Brod.
Das Brod is a project to create a new facility that's designed to provide a mixture of exhibition and performance and public space with working space and studio space for artists and creative industries in the city of Belgrade in Serbia.
James, you think it's okay to be late for half an hour when we have only now we have half an hour? And we're coming to...
I told you to go ahead, I sent you a message.
No, you didn't. I didn't get it.
Once we got a coherent idea of what we wanted to do, of the different stakeholders that would be involved and the different processes that we would go through, we contacted the Belgrade Office for Cooperation with Civil Society and European Integration and the Office for Youth. We spoke to Danko Runic and Kosta Andrić. And they've provided us with a small amount of funds to develop the research and create a publication in order that we can bring in a wider group of stakeholders and people to support the project, people from business, people from other state institutions, and most importantly, creative workers.
Ne, mislim, to što vi mene polijete ladnom vodom, to meni ništa ne znači, jer ja sam do sada takve neke projekte izgurivao i kao stalno sam se susretao sa ljudima koji polivaju ladnom vodom, ali kao, Bože moj, nađe se negde na kraju neki zajednički jezik ili kao neko ko hoće da razgovara. Nego, profesore moje, imaš ti neke hidroličare, čovječ? Treba mi neko mi kaže da li je moguće 80.000 kilograma da ide 5 metara gore i 5 metara dole u nekoj nebitnoj brzini.
We can look at building a facility on a boat. That allows us to do a number of things. First of all, we can move it if we need to move it. We can even move it to another town if we have to. We can do that creatively, to participate in a festival or to make collaboration products, or we can do it out of necessity if we're having some kind of problems in the places where we are.
Nigde tu nemaš veću visinu nego 2 metra. Znači, na brodu nema sada da ja dođem i imam lep plasman. To ne bio, nego je plafon tu. Sad što smo viši, malo niže. Ne, ali dobro, meni je tačno češljam ga plafon.
Češljaš po plafonu.
Ali to je.
The next stage is to conduct in-depth consultations with the users of a platform like Desperate, with the creative industries, to map out their needs so that we can create a platform that really is designed specifically for their use.
There's much less, perhaps, combat over water space than there is over land space.
Ako vi njoj natovarite 1500 tona, ona će zagaziti 2,2 metra, 2,5 metra.
Da, moraš da...
Potone pramac mora pozadije da se puni vodom da bi on plivao.
Parallel with that, we will do a feasibility study, the technical aspects of how one makes a river barge fully legal, fully operative, and sustainable.
Da se ovdje naprave ofisi koji će biti podrška samom funkcionisanju celog broda kao tom nekom kulturnom centru i koji će tu imati neku, znači, digitalne medije, sve, muzika, video, kao slika. Ovdje kocka koja je ovdje još uvek tretirana kao kocka, kao baš nas briga koliki su mostovi.
Vidiš, ovo ti je posebno, ona je skučena, nema, ove su već onda kabine malo pristojnije, znači, krevet, ten veliko kupatilo, tu, znaš.
The next step in the process is to start to bring in a wider group of people to work with us, particularly from business and state institutions. From state institutions, we need to work out how we can make this work in Belgrade. What are Belgrade's priorities in terms of policy for the arts and creative industries? Do they need support to develop them? And what are they already doing that can make us work?
The problems that's perhaps existed in Serbia, like some other transitional economies, is a slight over-politicization of the process, and maybe a failure to understand about how cultural industries need to work, that they are really based on individual vision or small group vision, and they're not necessarily connected with the priorities of the government or of the local municipality and its own cultural ventures. They're not necessarily to do with each other. They have to be allowed to function in a kind of a free enterprise way.
We would like to cooperate with other socially responsible businesses to provide resources to create this process, but not in the sense of providing money. That's an old form of cooperation for socially responsible businesses, but knowledge, ideas, know-how. They run effective businesses. We want them to help us create a platform to help young creative people run effective businesses.
There's a huge potential here, like in so many other countries that are transitioning from a state-controlled economy.
In order for a project like Dasbrod to really have an impact, it needs to be a collaboration between state institutions, between businesses who will benefit from an expanded creative industries sector in Serbia, and from the creative industries people themselves, those creative workers who will produce products that can be exported or used here, from people who make t-shirts to video games to advertising to music.